VR now allows you to sell your experiences to others. Which memories would you put up for sale? I told this story recently, but when I was 10 years old my parents made help out back to clear out the weeds that had taken over our backyard. It was going to take a while because how crazy it was, but I was taking even longer to help because I was so distracted by the cute puppy our next door neighbor had. I found out that his parents were going to take him back to the shelter because their son wasn't taking good care of him like he promised. They offered to sell him to me for $20 and I had that saved up, so I went back and forth begging my parents if we could get him. They finally caved and he became our. I named him Snoopy and have never been as happy as I was that day. I was an only child so I looked so much forward to having a dog to play with and go on adventures with. It's definitely my favorite memory, because he meant too much to me in the almost 17 years he was a part of my life. Here is the first picture I have of us together, where you can see on my face just how happy and excited I was. http://i.imager.com/r/1.jpg. I feel that people would want to experience a happy memory like that, and it would also be a way to help keep Snoopy's memory alive. That picture is so wholesome. Smile. Swimming with seals was exactly as cool as you would imagine it to be. Bro, ask Bin Laden, being around seals isn't fun. Bar Dumtish. I met this girl once as youth camp counselors one summer. I asked her out after the first week was over. We went out a few times. Then we took a picnic up a nearby canyon and just kind of lazed about on a big old blanket from my parents' house. I decided it was time for a to define the relationship. I asked her, hey, so I'm in, total likeage with you here. How are you feeling? I'm in total likeage with you, too. She became my girlfriend. I would share that moment when she said she liked me back using the same awkward, dorky language I used. Then we just laid on the blanket, held hands, and stared at the clouds together for about an hour. Pure bliss. We've now been married for 11 years and have 4 amazing kids together and are currently building our dream house. Can I VR into your whole life please? Yoshikage Era would like to know your location. When my daughter was 3, dressed in a Snow White costume watering the flowers in our garden and talking to the flowers. My overall best memory. The only thing I would care to remember when I die. It brings tears to my eyes just by mentioning it. Dude, I was never an emotional guy until I had a daughter. The other night she was sleeping on my chest. Woke up in a daze, stared straight into my eyes with a little smile for a few seconds, said I love you daddy, then fell back asleep. I thought about it later that night and just broke down in tears. I'll never forget that moment. My favorite band had me get up and play drums with them. I was like 15 and I pretty much nailed it. As a musician, it's a once in a lifetime that everyone dreams of. The video game career experience. All the marketing material for this experience would make it sound fun. Talking about how you can live your dream job through VR, creating awesome games for people all around the world. You start playing the experience. For the first few hours it's bliss and everything seems great. Then after the first few hours something seems off. Your bosses are mentally abusive, work conditions decline, your estimates are cut in half and deadlines are impossible to hit, your community bashes you, sends you death threats, and flames you for decisions that were made above your head in which you have zero input. I think this is the natural progression of video games. 1980s, greater than you paid quarters to play games. 1990s, greater than you bought a system to play physical games. 2000s, greater than mostly still 90s shit, but you also downloaded games. 2010s, greater than physical games start to go away, you download/stream games, but there's a huge rise in watching people play the games. 2020s, greater than you pay into a Patreon to watch game developers struggle to make a game. 2030s, greater than watching machines make the iPhone 50 is all the rage. 2020s, greater than there are a number of indie game devs that do this already and have been for some time. My first tea trip, and I would buy it from myself so I could remember it better. I'm surprised more of these answers aren't drug experiences. This scenario is a great workaround for a lot of issues surrounding drugs. Drugs aren't legal? Just by the experience. Can't find drugs/don't know people? Just by the experience. Wanna try meth but don't want to get addicted and ruin your body? Just by the experience. Already doing drugs but your tolerance is too high? Just by the experience. Yeah, but a big part of drugs is the feelings in your body. Just looking at the effects through a headset wouldn't do them justice. I've seen more than 100 bands live. I'd probably share those. All the times I banged 10/10ths super hot chicks. People will quickly ask for a refund when they get just a black screen. Mine would just show Ops Mom. Mine would just show my mom. Some of the bad ones. To give people the opportunity to understand what it is like to be on the receiving end. I sat next to Quentin Tarantino in a theater at one of the first screenings of the Edgar Wright movie The World's End, and for the subsequent Q&A with Wright, Pegg, and Frost. He was very animatedly laughing and loving it the entire time. As a movie dork, that was a pretty once-in-a-lifetime experience. That's awesome. Where was the theater located? I'd share the best concert I ever played with my old band. It was a super fun night and we got really good reception. We were never even moderately big, but that was the biggest we felt. I'm not one to live in the past, but man, I crave that feeling every now and then. I feel this wholeheartedly. My band played so many local shows at VFWs and dive bars where nobody gave a shit about what was going on, or stayed outside smoking until their friends' bands came on. It was awful. But those few shows where we played decent venues with good crowds and got amazing reactions. I'd pay good money to have that feeling again. The first set I ever played was at the Roxy. I had all of 3 weeks of bass training before going up there, and our lead singer's entire extended family of like 50 people flew in to see it, plus friends of mine and randoms. One of the most terrifying and exhilarating experiences I've ever had. Probably combat-related trauma. I'm good without it. Figure there is probably some Halo playing dumb shit who thinks it would be cool to experience real-life combat without having to actually enlist. Have at it, bro. People feel fucking scandalized when they learn that despite being proud of my service I actively try to persuade people not to join. Free healthcare and a few neat stories about almost dying aren't worth the constant struggle with suicidal ideation and addiction that came with it. I don't tell them not to join, I just tell them whatever they do not pick infantry. I was infantry and loved it, but I always tell people to get a job that 1. Doesn't require you to potentially get shot at, and 2. Will give you something that helps you when you get out. My dad telling me how proud of me he is. Edit, I want you all to know I may not be your father, but I can be your daddy. And I want you to know how proud I am of all of you. This is something lots of people need to experience but never will. This makes me want to be a parent. To give someone the emotional support and validation so many of us did not receive. Edit, this of course assumes someone would be willing to participate in the activities that lead one to become a parent. Which they totally do, like all the time. /s, I would sell a typical day of me walking through my city. It would allow people to see what life is like from the perspective of a dwarf. You'd get to see how it feels when everyone and everything towers over you, and experience how inaccessible so many places are. And of course, how much unwanted attention you get from strangers. The photographs taken of you. The pointing, staring and comments. Maybe schools could use it to help kids empathize with people who are different. Likewise, from the perspective of a wheelchair. Lyme disease and babesiosis put me in one for a long time. I'm super outgoing and it amazed me how ignored I suddenly became. Serving staff at restaurants, etc., wouldn't make eye contact or always speak to me directly. You better believe that I go out of my way to do so with others in that position now. Snorkeling in Hanauma Bay in Hawaii. Initially, my wife and I went with the intent of staying an hour or two, having a picnic while we dried off, then hiking up Diamond Head. I felt like a kid again looking at all the pretty fish. My wife got out first and I just did not want to stop. We decided to come back again on one of our last days and spend all day there. Damn, that was a good day. I did the same thing when I went to Hawaii with my family. I enjoyed it so much when we went that I managed to convince my parents to go back again on one of the last days. There'd probably be a market for sex and virginity losses. My dreams. Last night I befriended a serial killer and just evaded being murdered the whole dream. Get your popcorn. You dreamt you were Lorne Michaels. I dreamt you were in bed with SHREK. Not as wild as some of the others, but I'd sell the memory of a summer I had when I was 16. My parents were away and I had the apartment to myself for an entire summer. There were two huge groups of friends I hung out with, among whom were a few real, solid buddies that I'd known my whole life and a few others less permanent but very cool and funny individuals. My best friend and I dated a pair of best friends, and while I liked my girl enough I wasn't head over heels, and so had fun without any of the ensuing drama. She felt more or less the same way. The weekends were basically 48 hours of non-stop partying and hanging out. Feels like I saw the sun rise every day. Not a fucking care in the world. I think about it a lot now, decades later. I've got a great family and a good job, but man do I miss that freedom. As someone who is going on 16 soon, wish I could experience something like that. I don't have any close friends, mostly just acquaintances. It sounds like you had an awesome time. Can I ask what your parents did that they had to travel? No one in my town really travels much. My family is the only on that regularity goes anywhere dash, and even still if my parents had to go somewhere they would drag us along with them. If it's any consolation, I was like you in high school and didn't really come out of my shell and find my tribe until college. And hoo boy was college night and day from high school, in the best way. It was worth the wait. Hang in there, you'll find your people smile. The day I, a grown-ass adult man, hid in the back corner of a gas station parking lot, leaning against the rear wheel of my car, crying as softly as I could to myself for 5 to 10 minutes. It won't sell well, but I'll at least have a handy reference of how lonely, isolated, sad, and pathetic I felt at that time and many others besides. But that one stands out as a low point among low points, so it's the one that gets used. Some people have never been there, never will be, and as a result, I don't believe they can ever understand what it's like. It's not their fault they have people who love and support them, nor is it their fault that, as a result, they haven't had that first-hand experience. But now they can at least see what it's like. This is heartbreaking. Might I ask what built up to that moment? The hug I got from Mr. Rogers. Edit, wow, thanks for the gold. I'm glad you all found this as special as I did. As a bonus, here's some proof. https://i.imager.com/znxm.jpg. That would get you millions. You misspelled billions. Having a snowball fight at the North Pole while standing next to nuclear submarine. Attending a cookout atop the same submarine while traversing the Panama Canal. Scuba diving in Guam. Snow skiing black diamonds in Jackson Hole. Navy will buy the first two for advertising, the third one was likely because of the Navy too. Hiking the Appalachian Trail, Mark Sanford. I had to put my childhood pup to sleep when I was in 6th grade. A few months later I had a vivid dream playing with him and having as much fun as possible cause I knew he had to leave again soon. It was a great way to say goodbye. Edit, thank you for the gold, kind strangers. The replies to this are all so beautiful and they all show how important family pets are and the losses we face eventually. Everyone gets to say their goodbyes in many ways, even if it's not face to face. The same happened to me with my dogs and after my dad died. The weird thing is that I too knew in my dreams that it was like some goodbye until we meet again. However, I once cut my super long hair super short and I missed it a bit. Few days later I dreamt of combing my long hair. Was also kinda nice. Edit, as many share more detailed versions of their dreams. I also want to add a bit. My dogs died both of cancer, and both times I dreamt of playing with them. My dad's dream was completely different though. He died after a long suffering of cancer. It was truly heartbreaking to watch him fade. In my dream I went to visit him and I entered the kitchen where he usually would sit at the table. I was so surprised to see him in this dream because he looked way better, spoke clearly and simply looked healthy. I sat down and without me asking he just said something like I feel way better again. Then we happily chatted about some random things until I woke up. This is very comforting to me knowing that he's well and okay now. Happened to me after my dad and dog died too. My dad died when I was 4 and apparently I had a dream that he was building a house for us in heaven. Grandma wrote it down and she said it bolstered her Mormon faith unfortunately, but whatever. I had my Great Dane for 10 years, when she died I dreamed she was buried in my yard. I dug her up so zombie dog and I romped all over the yard. Good times. Miss that dog. I've also got long ass hair but no weird dreams about it lol. Wouldn't let anyone cut it. I got a hole in one while golfing, it was awesome. I would definitely sell that. Did you look around for 10 minutes trying to find the ball? I've gotten several holes in one. I even had 2 the same game once, but I only mini golf, so it's not the same. Congrats on your big golf accomplishment. You had us in the first half, not gonna lie. I'm a dentist. I think everyone should have the experience of taking out someone else's tooth when they are totally and completely numb. The patient is numb or you're numb. It's most fun if everybody is. That massive shit I did back in college. I think there'd be a real market for sporting victories. The rush of winning a big race/game in the midst of the total agony of giving every last ounce of effort is a unique euphoria. I think people would pay handsomely to experience that. Or the opposite. Like if I was Bill Buckner, I would sell my missed grounder memory and people would be like, damn, that did take a weird hop. Underrated comment. Similarly, Cody Parkey could sell his field goal memory and people would be like, damn, that did feel good, it was just tipped at the line. Dying and coming back to life after 4 minutes of being clinically deceased. Truly an experience. Can we get a free trial version? No problem, but you only get 50% of the experience. This moment in time is the beginning to the movie Strange Days. I came here to find a reference to Strange Days.